Viking Boy, Chapter 2, Fire in the Night. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the vocab that appears in the chapter, just to help you with some of the words and the understanding of the story. Tendrils. In the chapter it describes smoke, and the shape of the smoke as tendrils of smoke. It's just used as an adjective to describe the way the smoke makes the shapes and the way it appears when people look at it. Yanking. When somebody yanks at something, they pull it quite hard and with a bit of force, causing whatever's being yanked to jerk and move quickly. Snarling. So when it means to see when animals bare the teeth and show the fangs and growl in a vicious way. Jerkins. Almost like a leather tunic that's worn on the upper body in place of armour. A lot of the Viking people and the ones that weren't very rich couldn't afford the chainmail armour, so they would wear a leather jerkin, and that would protect them a little bit against any weapons, but not much. Turves. In the chapter it describes as Gunnar's father kicking at the turves to try and get out of the house. Well, turves are a little bit like wattle and daub walls made up of wood, mud and grass. So when he's kicking at it, eventually it gives way and a hole is formed for them to get out of. Well, I think we're almost ready to read Chapter 2 of Viking Boy. I hope you enjoy it. I've set up a little bit of an atmosphere in where I'm about to read the story. So enjoy and don't try it at home. Fire. So fundamental to humans for thousands and thousands of years. It creates light in the darkness, warmth when it's cold. It cooks your food, it brings people together. But fire can be a destructive force also. Viking Boy, Chapter 2, Fire in the Night. Scully and his men left next morning. In the days that followed, Father arranged for guards to be posted, the men on the farm taking it in turns to keep watch, but nothing happened. And after a while, Gunnar forgot Scully's warning. Until one night, when he woke with the smell of smoke in his nostrils. It always smelled of smoke inside the longhouse, but they usually let the hearth fire burn down at night, and the smell shouldn't have been so strong. There was a little light coming from the fire embers, and Gunnar could make out the shapes of sleeping servants around the hearth. He slid out from beneath his furs, raised his eyes, and his heart jumped. A tongue of flame was licking at the underside of the thatch. Tendrils of smoke curling from it like snakes. Father, Mother, wake up! Gunnar yelled, yanking back the curtains to the chamber. The roof is on fire! His parents were soon out of bed and looking up at the flames. The servants waking too and crowding round them. What do you want us to do? Said Anor, appearing from the shadows. Get everybody outside, said Father. Then start filling pots with water. We can probably save most of the roof if we get it damped down. Arno started pushing everyone towards a porch. He unbarred the door and opened it. But he didn't get far. Gunnar heard a humming sound, and Arnor grunted, falling back into the arms of the people behind him. Arnor was dead. 3 arrows in his chest, a dark, blood-stained tunic in his middle. Gunnar felt sick, hardly able to believe what he was seeing. Father stepped over Arnor's body, slammed the door shut, and banged the bar down into place again. He quickly moved to one of the small windows in the wall, pulled open the shutters a crack and peered out. More arrows thumped into the wood of the longhouse. "Who brings fire in the night and murder to my hall?" he roared. There was no answer for a moment. Gunnar glanced up and saw the flames spreading. His mother grabbed him and moved him backwards towards the window, then turned him with a finger across her lips and carefully pulled the shutters open. "We are the wolfmen, bringers of fire and slaughter," a voice outside growled. "And we will give you a choice of endings." Gunnar peered through the window and felt his blood go cold. A line of fierce-looking warriors stood facing the longhouse beneath the star-filled sky. There were perhaps 30 of them. Most were in leather jerkins, only a few in chainmail, but they all wore wolf's head helmets and carried spears decorated with wolf tails and shields painted with pictures of snarling wolves. Several held torches, the flames casting shadows that danced, and 3 had war bows, arrows notched and ready to be fired. There were dogs too, 5 massive beasts straining at their leashes, their jaws parted to reveal white fangs, the wild eyes reflecting the red light of the torches. Another man stood in front of the line. Gunnar realised that he was one who had spoken, their chief. He was wearing a mail shirt, but his head was bare, his grey streaked black hair hanging to his shoulders. He wore a wolfskin cloak, and the blade of his unsheathed sword glinted in the starlight. A couple of wolfmen with torches moved up behind him. "A choice?" said Father. "That's generous of you, but I'm sure I can guess what it is. Stay in here and burn, or come out with my gold and silver and anything else worth stealing, then you'll cut my throat anyway, and probably kill everybody else too, or sell them as slaves, which is worse." "I can see you know how this works," said the chief, "but we're not as bad as that. I'll let the women and children and servants live, and maybe only sell a few, and maybe we'll even let you fight for your life. We could do with some fun, eh, lads?" His men laughed and yelled the wild war whoops and howled like wolves. "Your night guard wasn't much of a challenge." The chief nodded, and another of his men threw something round onto the ground. It rolled slowly towards the longhouse, and Gunnar realised it was Ranulf's head, the eyes wide open, the hair darkened with blood. "Glad to hear you'll give me a chance," said Father. "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long," said the chief. "I can be very impatient." Gunnar saw him nod, and the 2 men beside him ran forward and threw their torches high into the air. The flames flapped and hissed as the torches spun end over end and thumped onto the roof, and the wolfmen cheered. Mother hurried over to Father as Gunnar. "What are we going to do?" she said. "We don't have much time. The roof isn't going to last long." As if to underscore her words, one of the roof beams groaned and crashed down in a shower of sparks. Everyone ducked, and the longhouse filled with acrid smoke and small floating pieces of burning thatch. Father pulled his wife and son closer to him. "I can't save everybody," he whispered, his face anguished. "You 2 have to come first." Then he turned to the others and spoke loudly so they could hear him above the sounds of the flames. It looks like we have no choice. Out you go quickly now. He didn't wait to see whether they obeyed him, but hurried, his wife and son, to the curtained off chamber. I think we can make a hole in the wall here, father said. Help me. He pushed hard at one part of the wall, and Gunnar and mother pushed too. Soon the turves were loosening. We'll need to be ready. Put on some warm clothes, but nothing that will stop you running. We'll make for the forest. Gunnar and mother busied themselves with finding clothes and pulling on their boots. We are ready, said mother. At last she glanced up and Gunnar followed her gaze. The fire had reached the thatch above them and smoke billowed through the curtains. Father had pulled on a thick tunic and strapped his sword on his hip. Here we go, he said, giving the wall a kick. The turves shifted and buckled, then collapsed, folding in on themselves, and a hole appeared. Come on, Gunnar, said mother. They rushed out together and ran straight into one of the wolfmen. To me, lads, he yelled, I've got a couple here. Suddenly, Gunnar heard a hissing sound and saw a bright gleam sweeping clean through the raider's neck. Gunnar blinked with the speed of it, then saw the wolfman's head bounce away across the grass. The man's body seemed to realise something final had occurred and slowly crumpled to the ground. Father stepped over the corpse, Deathbringer shining in his hand. Behind him, the flames from the burning longhouse leaped into the sky. That's for Arnor, he hissed. He turned to Gunnar and mother. Run! It was too late. Gunnar heard snarling and saw the dogs come racing round one end of the longhouse, followed by a dozen wolfmen. Father took the shield of the man he had killed. Mother grabbed the spear from the dead man's hand, and they both turned to face the onslaught. Gunnar picked up a rock from the ground and stood between them, wishing he had a better weapon. The first of the raiders reached them and also raised his spear, but Father brushed it aside with the shield and let the man run onto Deathbringer, the blade piercing right through. Father yanked Deathbringer out of his guts. And that's for Ranulf, he hissed, seeking out the next opponent. Two more wolfmen and the first of the dogs attacked together. Father took one warrior low, Deathbringer slicing through his legs, and the other high, with a stroke that almost severed the man's spear arm, finishing both with thrusts into their chests. Mother dealt with the dog, skewering the snarling animal on her spear as it leapt, the others skidding to a halt just out of range, growling and showing their fangs. The rest of the warriors stopped as well, spreading to form a circle around Gunnar and his parents. Gunnar could see the archers among them, arrows notched in their bows. Father stood before his wife and son, covering them with his shield, watching the wolfmen. Gunnar's heart pounded as if it was about to burst through his ribs. All three panted in ragged gasps, their breath a cloud in the cold night air. Why have they stopped? Whispered Mother. They're waiting for me, said a deep voice. Suddenly, two more men appeared and walked into the circle. Gunnar saw that one was the wolfmen's chief, but then he drew in his breath sharply. The other was Scully.